honestly think that Orange and Purple should be the next name for the next Pokemon game. I mean, come on guys. Hi everybody, Carla here, and first of all, forgive me for looking like a hobo, and I just want to let you know that this video will hopefully, fingers crossed, be an actually short video, because I literally just like 2 hours ago finished catching up with Orphan Black, which is one of my favorite series, and I haven't really had much time to think about what I'm gonna talk about in this video, but I do know that I want to talk about Orphan Black, so it will probably be more of a, improvised thing. I have nothing written down, no outline or anything, so I'm just gonna free write it the whole way through and say whatever I think should come up on my mind. But basically, yeah, I'm gonna talk about Orphan Black today. This show is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I had watched it religiously for the first few seasons, and then at some point I guess I just kind of missed an episode, and then I couldn't really get back to it, because in shows like these, the lost type mythology shows, if you miss an episode you pretty much are lost forever, right? So now that I have a DVR and Netflix and stuff and streaming and everything, I finally got around to watching everything that I haven't watched since I left it, and I started with something somewhere in season 3, like halfway through season 3 or something. I started watching and went down all the way to the end, and it just reinforces the feeling that this show is amazing and it's one of my favorites of all time, and it's so great. I'm so hyped up, but at the same time I'm also really sad, because now I've watched the whole thing and there are no more episodes to watch, and there are never going to be more episodes to watch because the show is over. And so it's kind of a bittersweet type feeling that I have right now, but I really, really loved the last 2.5 seasons of the show. They were amazing. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to comment on how I feel right now. I've literally been watching this thing for the last 4 days, because it takes so much out of my emotions that I kind of have to pace myself, right? So I've spent the last 4 days just watching through everything from season 3 on, and it's so much to process, but at the same time it's just so amazing. First off, I have to warn you, there will be spoilers. I'm not holding back on anything. I'm going to talk about everything that happened in the last season up to the last episode, so if you haven't seen it, please go back, watch it. You won't regret it. It's an incredible show, so please do yourself a favor and go watch it, and then you can come back and watch this video, because I really will talk about everything, so you've been warned.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
Here's the thing. When I stopped watching somewhere around halfway through season 3, the show wasn't at its best. I thought seasons 2 and 3 were a little bit not as exciting, I guess. They did a bunch of stuff in season 3 that I didn't really care for, but I did think, however, that they planted some seeds that were really interesting in the whole Castor thing and where they came from. So I thought that was great, and I was looking forward to seeing what came after that, even though the seasons 2 and 3 themselves weren't particularly the most exciting. Season 1 is still one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen in my life. And so I was a little wary when I started watching the second half of season 3. Honestly, I shouldn't have been, because the second half of season 3 was amazing. Like, I think I left it at about the point where Paul dies and, the whole Castor thing goes up in flames. That was the point where I stopped watching, not because I wanted to, but just because I missed an episode and couldn't get back to it. And everything after that made the entire season just 100 times better. It was so good. And season 4, you guys, season 4 oh my god. If there's one season apart from season 1 that I would pinpoint as the best season of the show, it was season 4. Season 4 was amazing, not only because we got to learn so many things about this program and how they came to be and how the cloning began, and Lita and Castor and everything that led up to the Sestras doing what they're doing right now, and why they weren't interested in looking for them, why they were so interested in studying them and then killing them. And we learned so much in season 4 that just for that, it's become pretty much my favorite, but also because of the acting. And this is one thing that I really have to really underscore. Tatiana Maslany is the most incredible actress I have ever seen. Have you seen how she portrays each clone? And each one of them is so different, to the point that even when she's playing one clone who's playing another clone, you can still recognize straight away that, yeah, that's not who she says she is, she's another clone playing her. You can totally recognize it. It's incredible. It's mind-blowing. Like, seriously, there goes my brain. It's so crazy. She is so talented, and every single one of these characters gets so much detail, so many layers, and she plays it perfectly. And the thing about season 4, I've thought this way from the beginning, right? So here's the thing about Orphan Black is that it might not be the biggest spectacle show, the most shocking show ever. A lot of people, feel very strongly about Game of Thrones, and I like Game of Thrones too, but for me, Orphan Black is better than Game of Thrones because they do so much with a very limited budget, and they don't have to rely on flashy special effects to make things exciting. I mean, Game of Thrones has dragons, sure. Just watching these clones interact with each other and actually converse with each other and be in scenes together, choreographed so perfectly that you don't even notice that it's a special effect. You just kind of assume that Tatiana Maslany somehow cloned herself 5 times and all of the clones are in the same room and it's a real thing that's happening because it looks so real. I haven't seen any other show that I've ever seen in my life do that so seamlessly and so perfectly and so realistically. And you don't need a huge budget for that, but you need a lot of people to pay a lot of attention to what is happening on set. And you need a highest possible caliber actress like what you have in Tatiana Maslany to be able to do that and have every character actually be specific and detailed and different from all the others. And because of that, for me, Orphan Black will always be a better show than even Game of Thrones. I mean, I love Game of Thrones, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing show, and George R.R. Martin is just so, his mind is incredible, but Orphan Black does so much with so little that I would love the show forever. And even then, they weave together this incredible plot, right? That has so much detail, and I always wondered, did they know from the beginning that this is where they were going? Because now that I've seen season 5 and everything wrapped up so nicely, I'm just like, wow, did they have this all planned? Or did they actually write this as they went along and somehow it all managed to work? And season 4 is the best example of that, because not only do you get the plot actually, coming to the forefront and giving us all the answers that we've been asking for the past 3 seasons, but you also see these clones basically at their lowest. All of them. I mean, Sarah tries to kill herself. We see Beth's story of the day that leading up to the day that she killed herself. Cosima is so downtrodden through the whole thing, and then at the end, everything she loses. Allison just sort of does not know her own identity anymore and has to face the consequences of what her actions were in the first few seasons. And of course, Helena is just sort of away from her sisters and feeling sad and lonely and having to deal with her babies and running away from Diet because they want to take her babies. And it's just so, all the clones are in such a low place. And Tatiana Maslany plays that to perfection. now that I've seen season 4, like, I know exactly why she won an Emmy for this season. I don't think anybody could have done this as well as the Tiramisu did. And I'm just so, it made me feel, I finished season 4 and I was like, wow, I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Like, I felt like I was lacking air, because it was so monumental what they did with the plot and with the acting. And season 4 I didn't necessarily feel was as exciting as season 4 was, but as somebody who likes the setup and feels less excited about the conclusion, I kind of saw that coming. You know, I mentioned this before, that I really like when they're setting things up and then when they're wrapping things up is not as fun. So when everything sort of climaxes in season 4, season 5 is always kind of like, how do we deal with this climax, right? And what do we do in order to get these characters to an end point? So I didn't feel season 5 was as exciting, but as an ending, it was one of the most satisfying endings I've ever seen in my life. And it comes back to the point of, how did they do this? Like, did they have these 5 seasons planned from the beginning, or did they just set stuff up at some point and then went back and put it all together in a way that it actually wrapped up with a neat bow? And I know I might be off in this because I literally just watched the ending like 2 hours ago, so I haven't really had a lot of time to process this, but I feel like I don't really have any plot holes when it comes to Orphan Black. And even with other shows of this type that I like, for example Haven, I've talked about Haven before. Yes, I love the ending, but I still felt like there were things that were left unexplained. I don't feel that way with Orphan Black. I feel like I finished watching the last episode and I felt that everything that had set up in the past so painstakingly, they actually went back to. And that's one of the reasons why I actually liked season 4 even better. Because while I was watching season 3 and the start of season 4, I did wonder, hey, there are things they're setting up, like the Proletheans and, you know, Gracie and Mark, and we never really saw them again until later on. And Cody, did she die with the whole Paul thing? Like, what happened there, and is she not coming back? Like, are we supposed to understand what her purpose was? They brought them back. They brought those issues back. Or, you know, Helena's babies. I mean, she's been pregnant since season 2, and finally her babies and why they're important comes to the forefront at the end of season 4, beginning of season 5. So it's these things that normally writers sort of set up and sometimes can forget about. In Orphan Black, they actually went back and took all those setups and used them in a way that was so perfectly. I mean, they brought back Gracie and they used her great. They did something great with her. They brought back Mark, and he turned out to be, you know, the last of the Castor boys. And they used him so well too. And they brought back Cody, and they brought her back in a way that felt really organic. Because you can, one of the things that bothers me about sometimes shows like these is that, oh, you have a big bad, and then you get rid of him, and then another big bad comes up, and then you get rid of that, and then another one comes up, and it's like you can only have so many men behind the curtain, right? Like, I don't really buy that this guy, and then there was someone above him, and then there was someone above him, and then there was someone above him. But in this case, I really did buy it, because the way they set it up with Diet and the whole Castor project with the military is that these were many different companies, shell companies basically, who were dealing in different projects, but instead all these projects were sort of unknowingly working toward the one goal of the one person. And while I didn't necessarily like Westmoreland, or whatever his real name was, I can't remember, what I didn't necessarily like him, and this whole idea that he was conning all kinds of people into believing that he was a 117-year-old. Come on guys, let's be real here. I did sort of really like the idea that he was the head of an immense corporation that happened to be controlling diet and the Castro project and everything involving that, but keeping them separate. So it wasn't like one above the other, above the other, above the other. It was more like he was so looking forward to this cure for himself and to heal himself, that he created this spider web of shell companies, and all of them were working on similar things, and if one of them got to the truth, then that was good enough for him. If one of them got to the solution, that was what he wanted, and he could live without one. It's a bit of a Hydra thing. If you cut off one, at least you still have the other, and that makes a lot of sense for me. And it does seem plausible that one person with a lot of resources and a lot of intelligence could possibly do that. So they set it up in a way that really worked for me. About Westmoreland, I don't like this idea that he was this con man and that people bought his bullshit story about being 170 years old. But I did like him though, because he was played by Stephen McHattie, who was also one of the bad guys in Haven, and he's such a great bad guy. I love that. And I love that he was basically doing all of that for himself because he didn't want to die. That was all there was to it. And it's a very interesting parallel, because here you have the Sestras and just in general the Lidas, including Rachel, who are doing this because they want to be free. They want to be able to have their own lives. And it's kind of an interesting parallel, because then Westmoreland also is doing this because he wants to live, but he doesn't care who he hurts in order to have that, whereas the Sestras are all about, doing the right thing in the right way. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I like the characters that they introduced in these last 2.5 seasons. I liked Susan, I liked Ira. Ira grew on me. I didn't want him to die. Like, he seriously started growing on me, even though I was kind of squicked out by the whole Susan thing, and that she was with him, like, actually with him. Actually, he started growing on me. I even liked when they brought Cody back. I didn't like Cody as much in season 3 as I should have, I guess, but when they brought her back, it actually made a lot of sense. And because her children were the Castro boys, and there weren't really any Castro boys anymore, I could see how she could be more detached than maybe Susan had been, or that maybe Licky had been, because she didn't have as much interaction with the Lidas, so that was very interesting. As for season 5, I really liked how they brought it all back to Kira, basically, and just Helena's babies, because the idea is that they weren't looking for a cure for the Lidas, right? We know that they weren't, and for the longest time we knew that they weren't, but they wanted something and we didn't know what it was. And then when they explained about the gene that helps people heal, I was like, oh, so the gene doesn't express itself in the Lidas, but it can be passed on. So that it makes total sense then why they would be looking for Kira and for Helena's babies, because they have the chance to get that gene and they can study them. And killing the Lidas is just kind of a side effect, really, and a good side effect for that. They don't have any leftovers, any loose ends anymore. And of course, since Sarah and Helena were the only ones who could actually reproduce, that it just makes a lot more sense why they were so interested in them. As far as the ending goes, I really loved it. I think maybe there were a couple of things that I didn't enjoy as much. Like, I had hoped that Chauvin wouldn't have died. I really liked Chauvin. Also, the thing with, Felix and this dude, I barely remembered him when he popped up again. So I don't like that they were suddenly together, and I had to kind of accept it. I wish I could have seen more of them, but I don't remember. I didn't like that we didn't get to see how the whole clone secret came out. Like, Adele was there in the baby shower with all the clones, so they must have told her, right? I wish we could have seen that, but I get why we didn't. I think Helena was sort of missing for most of the season because she had to take care of not getting captured and not having her babies taken from her, so I understand why. I just wish I could have seen more of her. She did go back to her, adorable psycho murderer ways in the last 2 episodes, so that was good. I like that. And I'm really happy that the Sestras got to have their own happy ending. I'm happy that even if Shoban died, at least she died being the freaking badass that I loved her that she was. You know, I loved her for that. She was freaking badass, and I love that even in her dying moments, she was kicking butt. You know, she was not gonna let anything happen to her daughter and her granddaughter and her sisters. I really enjoyed this whole thing about the original sample being Shoban's mom, because it brought everything back to the theme family, I guess. I like that she was Chimera. Basically, it's not something you see much of on TV. Like, I know there was one episode of House that dealt with that, but you don't really see much of chimerism on TV, and it's very interesting for somebody who loves science as I am. So I really like that, and I like that one woman was a source for both the projects. And I really loved how everything worked out in the end for the Sestras. My favorite clone has always been Cosima, because, I mean, come on. If you know me, it's really no wonder that the Science Sestra was going to be my favorite, because Cosima is awesome. I love her so much. But I love all of them. I really love Allison. She's so funny and hysterical, but at the same time, she's so protective about her sisters. And I love Helena because, yeah, she's a psycho murderer, but she's kind of cute, and I love how she keeps eating all the time. It cracks me up. And, you know, her accent and the way she doesn't get things, and the way she calls Donnie Hendrick, and it's just so funny. But even apart from all the main Sestras, I loved Crystal. I love that they brought her back. I adore her. She's such an idiot savant in a way. I adore that she kind of figured out everything, but then didn't figure out anything because she couldn't, like, her brain couldn't compute, but she knew what was happening, and it was awesome. I love her. Every time she was on screen, I cheered. I love Crystal. I wish they could have brought her into the fold with the other Sestras, but I understand why not. And then in the end, I really loved what they did with Sarah, because even though it's a happy ending, quote unquote, she still has issues. Like, her issues weren't because she was a clone. She started off that way, not knowing what to do with her life, not doing how to be a good mother to her daughter, and just thinking of herself as a screw up. And it's not really something that you can forget that easily, and in the face of all the mistakes she made through this whole Orphan Black series as well, she has to feel that guilt. And I like that it wasn't just like, oh, she's okay, she's happy. I like that she still had doubts, and I liked even more that her sisters actually supported her and let her know that even though she's made mistakes, they still love her and she can still be happy. It's gonna take some work. I do hope that eventually she decides to take the GRE, because, come on, she needs a good job, really. And I like that Rachel didn't die. Halfway through season 4 and in the beginning of season 5, I was really rooting for Rachel to die. Like, I wanted her dead so badly. But then with the whole Charlotte thing and with the whole Kira thing, and you could see how maybe she didn't feel the empathy that she should have felt with her sisters, with her fellow Lidas, but when it was a girl, a little girl, she felt that empathy because she was that little girl. She was used as an experiment, basically, and she was the only one aware of it, and she had to grow up with that knowledge, so she didn't want that to happen to another little girl. And I saw that turn. I saw it coming, and I really liked what they did with her, and that they didn't entirely redeem her. Like, she didn't become one of the Sestras, because I think I would have been pushing it too far, but at least, you know, she recognized that what they were fighting for was a good thing, and she went off on her own, and they probably never saw her again, but at least she did one good thing in the end, and I really like that. It's kind of a Darth Vader type redemption, really, where he doesn't really redeem himself. It's more like that one moment, you know, that kind of makes them stop and think, hey, am I doing the right thing? So I really like that. I like that the Lidas are now going to be immunized. That was nice of her, and I really love this ending, you guys. And I'm so sad that I will never see Orphan Black again. It's so sad. This was such a great show. I definitely think once it comes out on DVD, I will buy the whole thing. And I don't usually buy TV shows in DVD or Blu-ray because they're so expensive. But the few shows that I know I love and are my favorites, I do buy. Like, for example, Haven, I have the entire series in there. Joan of Arcadia, I have the whole first season in there. So those, I buy those because I know that those will be shows that I will cherish forever, and I think Orphan Black definitely makes the list. Like I said, I'm still astounded by Tatiana Maslany. I will be looking forward to seeing anything she does in the future. And although I'll be a little bit disappointed that I won't be able to see her play 27 characters in the same scene ever again, because I don't think she's going to go for that anymore. I'm really glad to support her career and to just see where she goes, because I think she's exceptional. She's one of the greatest actresses that I've ever seen. I mean, I keep telling people, I feel like she's gotta be some kind of sorcerer, because otherwise, just how? How does she do it? It's mind-boggling to me. But she's so good, and I look forward to seeing anything she does. And this show is just amazing. If you haven't seen Orphan Black, I mean, first, what are you doing here watching this video? But second, really, do go watch Orphan Black. You won't regret it. It's not a showy show. It's very cerebral, very emotional. It's a show that makes you think about science and about the consequences of science and the ethics of science, but also it makes you think about family and what it means to be a family with someone, and that it's more than just genetics. It's who you give your trust to and who you would do anything for. And it's just so great. The characters are so well developed. It's entertaining, it's fun, it's scary, it's heartbreaking at times, and it's just such a great show. Please, please, please do yourself a favor. If you like sci-fi, go watch Orphan Black. Even if you don't like sci-fi, if you're just more into like drama, go watch Orphan Black. It's such an amazing show. It deserves more recognition that it has gotten, because it's such an amazing show, and it should be right up there with Game of Thrones, and it's a pity that more people haven't seen it. So please, please go watch. I seriously think it's one of the best shows ever made, and I can't recommend it enough, you guys, seriously. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stop now because I'm getting emotional again, and it's just I'm gonna miss this show so much, and I want to kind of sit down and think about it, and then go watch something way less complicated, like, I don't know, the Care Bears or whatever. I really think I need some downtime after this marathon that I did in the last 4 days. So as usual, if you have any comments, do you watch Orphan Black? Do you like it? Which one's your favorite season? What did you think of the ending? Any of these questions you want to answer, please go into the comments and let me know. I'm here to discuss it with you. It's one of my favorite shows, and I hope that people like it as much as I do. Also, in that same vein, if you have any topics that you want me to talk about in the future, be it movies, TV, books, anything like that, anything geeky, if it's anything that I have any knowledge about, I will make sure to add it to my list of videos to make in the future. So please do drop it in a comment, and I guess we'll see if I know anything about it. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsoweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsoweird with hyphens between the words. You can find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia, and as usual, go visit my main website at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there in case you missed any and want to catch up, so be sure to check it out. Also, remember that I have a Redbubble store where I make art for my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms, and then you can use that art to print on merchandise such as t-shirts and coffee cups and computer covers and bags and all sorts of stuff in there for you to check out and maybe purchase if you're in the mood, so be sure to visit. And that's about it for me today, I guess. I will see you guys next week with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Sestra, stick together, guys. Never forget. Bye! Orange and purple should be the new name for the next puck. I mean, come on, guys. First of all, forgive me for finished watching through like the Neolithians and be it movie, TV.